George Kilpatrick, inspiration for the nation. It's time to talk about your money. And we're pleased to be joined once again by Vicki Brackens. Vicki is the president of Brackens Financial Solutions Network, LLC, and a registered representative of Lincoln Financial Advisors Corp. Member SIPC. And Vicki, so good to see you once again.
Thanks, George. Glad to be here.
All right, so what's going on? So I had a really hearty laugh before we started going today, but so you explained to me why I had a hearty laugh while I grabbed something over here.
Okay, then. Well, listen, I told George that one of the things that we were going to talk about today, and I'm just going to give you a little teaser, is exit planning. And he said, exit from what? And I gave him a look, and he went, from life? I said, yes, from life. Okay, that if we maybe called it exit planning, we could get many of you to take the steps necessary. So we'll come back to that subject shortly.
All right, here's the jargon bell. That means if Vicki says something that I don't understand, and I probably think you don't understand, we're going to ring that bell, and she's going to back it up and talk to me.
Okay, George. But anyway, I mean, I've had a really busy week, and it seems that with the holidays upon us, everybody's schedule is actually accelerating. But I did have time to read an article this week that I thought was pretty good, and it was really talking about the 15 best investing quotes that this particular author had encountered over his career. The subtitle was actually "The Mantras from Investing Gurus and Business Magnates That Will Motivate You Through Thick and Thin." Now, I want to be on the record to say this. These 15 business magnates that were selected by the writer, there is one obvious pitfall in the list. They're all men, they're all white. And yes, it does matter because perspective does matter. But
Sure.
Aside from that, there are a couple of quotes, and one in particular that I want to discuss today, and we'll deal with many of the others over the next couple of weeks. So the first quote is this: "It's not how much money you make, but how much money you keep, how hard it works for you, and how many generations you keep it for."
Right.
Now, that was from Robert Kiyosaki, who a lot of you probably know. He's an American businessman. He's founder of the Rich Dad Company,
Right.
and the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
And a series of books.
Okay? Now, we're right now reading The Millionaire Next Door, but as soon as we finish that, we probably are going to go to...
Get into some Kiyosaki books.
Exactly,
Okay.
over to Rich Dad. But over the last 21 weeks, we've had one central theme, and that central theme has been net worth, with everyone's mission to be to increase your net worth
every year.
Every year. And you're probably thinking, Vicki, when will you get off of this? I'm starting to sound, or Vicki, you're starting to sound like a broken record. And yes, you were right. I'm stuck on this concept, and I'm going to continue to repeat it until everyone who listens to the show regularly has this concept tattooed into their brain.
Tattooed.
Tattooed. I want it burned in, seared into your brain.
Yes.
Because increasing your net worth is the number one financial goal. Why? Because you need capital. You need capital to move ahead in the system that we live in. How important is this concept? Well, stop and think. What's been happening, and you've heard on the news over and over again over the last 2 or 3 weeks. Congress and the Senate have gotten one step closer to passing sweeping changes to the tax code. Central to that legislation are two important provisions, two central themes: keeping more of what you have and passing it on.
Yeah.
So now that says to me, if the politicians are discussing the merits of how these themes are accomplished, I'll leave that to George as far as, figuring out with other guests the pluses and minuses of how they did this. But what I'm saying is that if Congress and the financial industry and bankers and business owners are spending thousands of hours in manpower and political capital and donations to focus on these two central themes, then maybe you should too.
It sounds like a plan.
This is a plan.
Yeah.
So here are the themes again. Not how much you make, but how much you keep, and how many generations you keep it for. So let's focus on some year-end action items.
And when you think about it, look at some of these families: the Carnegie family, the Rockefeller family, Kennedys, right?
The Kennedys.
Right?
Okay.
They have managed to keep this going.
Generation after generation after generation. So, first action item. I gave you some action items last week about going down to your HR department. Here's the next set of action items. To increase your net worth, you need to save at a rate of 10% every year. I'll stop for a minute, George, and give you a little sidebar. I heard that everyone enjoyed my story last week about my credit card.
Yeah.
Because it gave you a way of looking into my soul. So I'm going to share another couple of facts. I have been broke before in my life. Okay. How broke? Because everybody says it's relative. Well, I've been looking in the couch cushion broke before in my life.
All right,
okay?
now. Yes.
I've been put $5 of gas in the tank so that you can go to work broke before in my life.
I know a lot of people say, talk to me, sister. Yes.
Okay, all right.
I know.
So here's what I'm telling you from experience. You need capital to move forward in your life because it brings stability and opportunity. You must save. So action item number 1, save at a rate of 10% starting right now. So if you make $1, save a dime. If you break that process into smaller increments, instead of thinking about what I will do at the end of the month, but look at it on a daily basis, because we all get something in our pockets, usually every day, or we get a paycheck once a week.
Right.
When that happens, don't think about what I will do at the end of the month. At that moment, take that 10% and put it aside.
Yeah, people, we often hear pay yourself first.
You must do that. Okay.
Yeah.
You absolutely have to pay yourself first. You must save. But here's the key. I said save.
Right.
I didn't say save it until next week.
Right. Save.
Save. It is permanently in the savings
period.
category. The next thing, though, is we need to set up the exit plan. We must stop believing if we don't handle the paperwork related to our wills, our powers of attorney, our healthcare directives, if we don't do the paperwork, then we won't die. We know that's not true.
We're going to die.
We know that there is an exit guaranteed for all of us.
Yeah.
So when we exit, we need to retain the wealth that we have created during the time that we are here on earth, because we have a entry plan for the next generation that we have to fund. So do this through your exit planning. This is the real power of compounding. We talk about compounding interest, where we have money sitting in the bank and it grows on top of money and grows on. Well, generational wealth grows from one generation to the next through proper exit planning. We're going to deal very deeply next week on the strategies, the things that must be done in the exit planning. I'm giving you a full week to absorb this.
Yeah.
To understand, we have to do exit planning. By the way, exit planning actually frees you up during life. And I'll prove that to you next week.
All right. Well,
So, George, I'll say at this point in time, our plate is full.
Well, can we have an appetizer?
Yeah, what kind of
The
appetizer?
appetizer is this. People want to know, if I start saving that 10% now, how do I get used to living with less? Answer that.
All right, here it is. Did you hear me say earlier,
Yes.
do it in small increments? It's when you get to the end of the month and you haven't moved that 10% away from your spending pattern that it becomes a chore.
So you're saying start at 1, 2, 3 and get up to? Or are you saying
No,
it down?
what I'm saying is this. You get paid every week.
Right.
Okay. Take the 10% right then. Don't wait until at the end of the month, I'm going to look at the cumulative 10s over week 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now I have to save 4 weeks of 10%. Because that is a much bigger impact to you as far as your spending
You said
pattern.
take the whole 10% at the beginning of the month.
Take the 10% out of each check.
Out of each check.
At that time. Don't wait until the end of the month. Where you now have to go back and calculate what was my 10% in week 1, what was my 10% in week 2, because that is a much bigger number. Here, I can prove it to you, George. If you had, let's say we had money that came in every day, and it was $50 every day, and we pull $5 from that, would you feel more strained if you actually had to pull 50 times 5, 250 at the end, or if you pulled $5 per day? That $5 per day can be absorbed into your lifestyle.
Much easier.
than a big lump sum at the end of the month.
And now people want to know, is it 10% of, like tithing, is it 10% of my gross? Is it 10% of my net? I'm just asking for them.
What you receive.
What's in your pocket.
Net.
Thank
Exactly.
you for your net.
Which is your net.
So the Delaney sister said, take 10% of, save 10, give 10, and live joyfully on the rest.
That's correct. Now we'll work toward that.
Yes,
okay?
yes.
Okay, because that is absolutely.
That's what they said.
That
and
is
they
true.
lived to be 101. All right. That was our little appetizer or dessert. What was that?
I think that was dessert.
All right. Our plate is full. Vicki Brackens is the president of Brackens Financial Solutions Network, LLC, and a registered representative of Lincoln Financial Advisor Corp., member SIPC, and, of course, a regular contributor to Inspiration for the Nation. And Inspiration for the Nation is, by the way, brought to you by Brackens Financial Solutions Network. Thank you.